that, right? You were getting rises out of people long before you met.
Shove it down and keep going. Because even if you don't shove it down, you're still gonna think about it.
Oh my god. It's like literally the most unhealthy mindset a person. Could possibly have.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Your reaction is joy.
Oh, because like oh, that was such a cute, oh, that was so cute. How that all wrapped. I don't know if he's gonna go this way. At the end of the day, an emotion is elicited from Sneeko, not the dopamine, not the wrecking, blah, 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 like joy, because it was a human person, not God, it was a human person in a conversation that recognized something, and it elicited a response from Sneeko.
I like connecting with people.
Yeah,
Oh,
right?
yeah, with people, yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Is this weakness?
Dr. K sets an unreasonable standard for what a therapist would sound like. I don't know if I've ever spoken in my entire life to somebody that can establish this much rapport this quickly with this level of pretty personal insight.
Hey, Dr. K.
Sneeko, you perma-banned me on.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Can you just count to 10 for me real quick?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Perfect.
Can you count to 420 for me?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, that's fine. That's good. That's good. Sounds good. How are you?
Good, dude. How are you?
I'm like,
Are we streaming?
yeah, I'm live right now on Rumble.
Oh, okay, cool.
Cool. Are you streaming?
Nope.
Okay.
I think you're banned on all the platforms that I stream on.
Yeah, that does happen. That does happen. So you're a therapist?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm a psychiatrist.
You're a psychiatrist. Okay. I don't believe in therapy, and I think it's a scam, and I don't think it's necessary.
Wait, did I know this? Wait, hold on, he's a psychiatrist? I thought that he went to school for psychiatry and then did like whatever residence training. No, if he did residency, I guess that implies med school. What? I feel like I didn't know this. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, nice. He is an actual Dr. K. Doctor. He's always said psychiatry. Why did I always assume psychology? I feel like I didn't know this, that he was an actual psychiatrist. Oh, bro, wait, why am I not hitting him up for my prescriptions? Dr. K, where is this guy at? Hold on. I don't think you can prescribe out of state for Florida. Bro, this is my second day with no Vyvanse, okay? This is a hard life right now, okay? This is a hard life right now. I am flowers for Algernonning back to... Flowers for Algernonning back to my original self. It doesn't feel good. Oh my god.
Okay.
Well, I'm a psychiatrist.
You're a psychiatrist. Okay. I don't believe in therapy, and I think it's a scam, and I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think that even if there is anything wrong with my brain, that this is going to be helpful whatsoever.
Why do you take a break? I feel like if you're gonna... gonna do like a stimulant recreational drug, I feel like I just want to cut my stimulant prescription medication. I feel like it's probably too much. That's just like a feeling I have. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a feeling I have. I feel like I should just chill for like a couple days. That's my feeling. I don't know.
Believe that men should just get over it and push forward. I think a better use of your time instead of talking about your feelings is working hard and
I don't have
building
a
something.
controller plugged into it.
That's a better use of your time than anything that, even if this was productive, my time would have been better spent making some money and getting stronger and getting better. But I want to be convinced that it's useful because a lot of people are talking about therapy and people have accused me of being mentally ill quite a bit. They've called me mentally ill since I was a child. I get that a lot from the internet saying Sneako needs to go to therapy. So maybe you can change that perception.
Okay. So let me just make a couple things clear. So I am a psychiatrist, but I'm not your psychiatrist.
Okay.
Is that clear? So I'm not doing
clear.
therapy with you, right?
Right.
You're not my patient.
Okay.
I'm not going to be diagnosing you.
Oh, wait. Destiny, this girl on the right is so f***ing attractive. Wait, I can't tell. Are you memeing? We know every person in this picture, right? Play on piano. There you go. That was the song. Okay, good luck.
Or treating you for anything.
Okay.
Okay.
We're having a conversation, and if you,
Okay.
I didn't know what we were talking about, but
Oh,
if
we
you
can
want
talk,
to
we can
talk
talk about anything. I'm just like prefacing with that.
yeah, that's totally fine. So, and I mean, is that what you want to talk about?
No, I want to talk
No,
about whatever. I
whether-
want to talk about whatever you want to talk about. Can I cry?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know how this works. What are we supposed to do?
That's a great question. So, well, I mean, so was there something in particular that you were thinking about when we last connected? So I don't know if we reached out to you or you reached out to us or what exactly happened, but what was there something in particular that you had in mind?
Okay, what do you specialize in? I've seen you talk to some of my friends. You talked to Aiden for a couple hours, and you were able to dissect and figure some stuff out. And I don't know. I think this could be an interesting conversation. I don't really know.
I
don't
completely
really know.
agree. I think this is going to be a very interesting conversation.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's I would. So let me tell you. So you asked how does this work? So I think there are a couple things to consider.
Okay.
We already talked about, it's not my place to do a diagnostic assessment of you and say that you are or aren't mentally ill. That being said, sometimes I talk to people and people will have questions about particular things. Sometimes those are related to mental health. And I'm happy to answer questions about particular things or try to help people understand parts of themselves, which a lot of times people think is the same as therapy. That's not the same as therapy. It's something that understanding yourself is a part of therapy, but not all paths of self-understanding are therapy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I think, I mean, I really enjoyed hearing your take on how therapy is not real and how people should just tough it out. and
it's
stuff like
real,
that.
but it's a giant waste of time. Like,
Yeah, so
there's some people
can
that
I
have
ask you
trauma.
about that?
Some people have trauma and PTSD. I think like veterans or stuff like that, or if you have the really like death, and I can see how it can be effective. But I think most people that go to therapy just like to hear themselves yap in real time. I think that they like their own problems. They like feeling like a main character, and it's just a way to vent. And it's like a pussy way of dealing with your problems. It's an easy way out. I think it's actually I think people give themselves a lot of credit for going to therapy. Like, it's something difficult. So I think it's really easy to sit on a couch and talk. I think what's better is moving forward and trying to, you know, shove it down and keep going. Because even if you don't shove it down, you're still gonna think about it. I think
Oh my god. It's like literally the most unhealthy mindset a person could possibly have. Jesus.
people have this idea that you need to process your feelings on a couch next to a guy. You could process your feelings like while you work. A lot of times I'm thinking about the things that I'm dealing with while I'm working, and that could be therapeutic as well. Or prayer.
Sure.
I think prayer is much more therapeutic.
Okay, so when you say therapeutic, yeah, that's great, dude. So I'm excited about this conversation. So let me just ask you a couple of things. So when you say that you think therapy is a waste of time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
why do you think that?
Because you're basically just saying, you know the answer already. I think when you walk into therapy, you already know the answer. Like instinctually, you know what you're supposed to do, and you kind of just want to talk about it to make yourself feel better.
So where do you get the idea that therapy is about? Where do you get your impression of what therapy is?
From everybody that talks about constant, like, you know, I'm from New York, and you all hear all these people in Manhattan. Everybody, all the libs, they talk about, like, I was just talking to my therapist. Oh, I just told my therapist. Oh, my therapist. They're calling their therapist. I need to talk to my therapist about this. People have relationship problems, and like, oh, we need to go talk about it to my therapist for 5 hours and have a deep therapy. Like, it's been way more normalized, and I think they prescribe a lot of problems so that you always come back. It's the same reason why the pharmaceutical companies do not want you to be healthy, so that you continue to buy their medicine. If I go to a therapist, your job is to take my money for my mental health problems. Why would you want me to get better? You don't. You want me to keep coming back and paying you. So
God, I hope Dr. K says, does that mean you should never pay anybody for personal training? All you want is for you to get shredded, and then you are what? Like, obviously they want to keep you weak forever, so they can keep like, this is true of literally every single person you would pay for help. Why would I go and why do teachers get paid to teach? If they teach everything they know, then you're not going to pay them for teaching anymore. Don't they want to keep you stupid? He'd probably agree with that, actually, because of education. But it's like such a
So you're gonna tell me, oh, come back next week and we'll unpack this and we'll unpack that. I don't need to unpack all this from childhood. I'm an adult. I'm 25. I'm gonna shove it down and keep going. Why do I want to unpack this stuff?
Okay. What has happened when you've tried to unpack it?
Unpack. Unpack what?
So,
Childhood?
so you said that like I don't want to unpack it. I want to shove it down.
Yeah,
right?
shove it
so
down.
like what is so? Obviously, you'd want to do that for a reason, right? So you've had some experience that makes you prefer
Well, I'm
shoving
speaking.
it down.
I'm speaking generally. Like people will talk about how they go into therapy and unpack all this stuff. It's better. Like I don't understand why people are 35 reliving all that. Well,
Okay, yeah,
I get it, but
so-
I just think that's a stupid decision.
Well, what do you get when you say you get it? Why do you think all these stupid people are in therapy?
What do you mean get it?
Like, well, you said you get it. So I'm curious, what do you get? Why do you think all these people are in therapy if it's such a colossal waste of time and essentially a monetary leech?
Because it's easier to talk about things rather than find an action that's gonna. It's easier to talk your way out of a problem than work your way out of it. Working is hard. Pushing forward and doing things that are difficult, that's harder. Right? Like I consider the gym therapeutic. I consider sparring. I spar quite a bit. I consider that therapeutic.
Yeah, so I think those things are therapeutic too. And I mean, I'll be the first to say that I don't think therapy is therapeutic for everyone. I think that the concerns that you have are actually like quite valid in terms of, I think sometimes therapy goes on way longer than it needs to. I don't really think that, in my experience, most therapists that I know are not interested in keeping people there for monetary reasons. And this very simple reason for that is there's no shortage of patients. So if you stop paying me, there's like literally a line out the door of like hundreds of people. Like the average waiting list for a therapist is like 3 or 4 months.
Wait, you don't get it. So when you see like a blue-haired transgender walk in, you don't like rub your hands together like, oh. No, like when you see like a dude that looks like a girl with kitten ears.
It's so crazy, like the lack of self-awareness. When he's like, what about all these mentally unhealthy people that are walking around? Like, meanwhile, he's saying, like, I almost think that it's a troll because Sneako is perfectly saying the worst possible things to have the, like, worst possible mindset to be the most mentally unhealthy person you could possibly be. Like, Sneako's saying those things, not like the random, you know, like, blue-haired trans person. Like, you're the one that is saying, like, literally the most unhealthy things in the world.
Like
What makes what makes me go like this is listening to you talk about therapy.
I was 10 minutes late today, guys. And the reason why I was late, I want to be honest, the reason why I was late is because I pre-watched this whole video. I am a pre-watcher, and I watched this all. I did pre-watch. I admit it. I admit it. I'm a pre-watcher. I pre-watched everything here. Yeah. I pre-watched it all, okay?
Why?
Because I think that there's like a lot of stuff to talk about that excites me.
Okay.
It's not the blue-haired transgenders, man. It's
Okay.
dudes who focus on shoving it down in action and don't care to engage with their internal environment, which is a little bit of a judgment because I don't know that that's actually the case with you. But I mean, this excites me.
Okay.
But anyway, what do you think about what I said about, you know, with their waiting lists? 50% of therapists don't take new patients. Like, we're full up. Like, we don't need your particular money because there's like tons of people that are waiting to give us their money.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Fair, but maybe the whole system works together. The pharmaceutical companies, the therapists, they all work on the fact that people's mental health, people are always talking about mental health. They all profit off of that. In a world where people fix their problems with prayer and with gym, that whole industry would never exist at all. So even though you might not need more patients, it's all based on the fact that everybody's diagnosing themselves in real time.
Well, so let me ask you this. So when you said fix their problems with prayer, how does that work?
Well, I just came back from Mecca, and you can see people, you call it suju when you put your head to the floor.
He's still pretending to be Muslim. Oh God, kill me.
And you see people sometimes like sobbing. Or when you go to the masjid on Friday, I'm gonna go tomorrow at 1 p.m. for Jummah. You see people like crying, and it's because they're definitely thinking of things that they're asking God for certain things to be fixed. And I consider that therapeutic. That same type of tear that they crying that they might do in therapy, instead they're connecting with God. I think all those problems like opening up about unpacking stuff like that, you should unpack it with God. You know, I see them and the way that they are, and I felt it too. When I was in Mecca, for example, and praying next to the Kaaba, I really felt everything that was going on in my head and everything. It's not like I have to shove it down. I know everything that's there, but it becomes present when you're in prayer. You feel it, you're thinking about it, you're reminded of everybody you love, you're reminded of your past, you're reminded of your flaws, you're reminded of what you want to do better on, you're reminded of your fears and everything, and then you look to God for strength and for guidance and to keep you on the straight path.
Okay, so let me just make sure I heard you. So when you pray, so it sounds like you feel a lot of positive emotions.
And negative too. Like I wouldn't say positive too, but like everything.
I wasn't done. So you said you feel a lot of love, you feel a lot of fear, right? You think about people that you love. You also think about actions that you want to take and places that you want to go. So you have goals that you think of.
Right.
And then what? Help me understand this part about God. Where does God enter the picture?
I would prefer, I can understand why therapy is helpful for a lot of people, but I think it's better to go and talk that out, talk about your trauma and your past to God rather than to a man.
Okay, so I'm not trying to debate you, okay? So I'm not trying to like catch you or something.
I understand.
I'm confused. Because now you're saying you think that therapy can be helpful for other people, but prayer is superior.
Yes.
So there's some benefit to therapy because it sounds like a lot of I'm assuming that you think a lot of the mechanisms are you talk about your positive emotions, you talk about your negative emotions, you talk about your goals. You can do that with a person, but it's better to do it with God.
Yes.
What makes it better with God?
Because I don't believe in confessing your deepest, darkest secrets and sins. I think that you're gonna...
What does he think therapy is? Confessing your deepest, darkest secrets and... Bro, Jesus. What are you talking about in therapy?
Embellish the truth. I went to therapy one time. I was 19 and I was talking to this woman. I was basically like head over heels about this girl. I was in college and like it was just a lot of things. I was just like going through like so I decided, all right, like everybody's doing this therapy thing, I'll pay her. And then she had giant tits. She was like really gorgeous. And so I ended up embellishing the story, and instead of like actually being honest, I was just trying to like, you know, I was like spitting game on her like I was on a date. And I realized in that moment, like I can't fully be honest with the person because the only person you could really be honest with is God. To a person, you're always going to be, there's going to be a level of entertainment. There's going to be a level of lying. You're going to try to make sure that they're engaged. You're going to try, your ego is going to be involved. When I'm talking to God, I don't have any ego. There's nothing, there's nothing that I need to hide, or it's just because God is all knowing. God's the best of planners. So he's going to know. And I even noticed that a lot when I was praying in Mecca. I felt all the ego and the little blockades that I had in my head and the barriers that you have when you talk to a person, they're absent when I talk to God.
Okay. Can I think for a second?
Yeah.
How's this conversation so far, by the way?
Interesting.
Okay. So let me just make sure I understood. So you tried therapy once, and because your therapist had big tits, it sounds like you activated a different mode of relating to that person.
Yeah.
So you started like hitting on her.
I remember like telling the story, and I was like, even my gestures, I was like, all right, so boom. So I was at the spot.
Sneeko is lacking all self-awareness here. It's actually so funny when how aggressively Dr. K is calling him out, but the lack of awareness really shines through when Sneeko talks about the blue-haired transsexual coming into Dr. K's office. Because the funny thing about Bluehead, but then Dr. K responds with like, I'm happy when you come into my office. That excites me. Because Sneeko's not like a healthy, well put together person. He, one day he's gonna need to like reflect on his mental health. And he can push that down as long as he wants, but like if people like him keep doing that, then those people are eventually gonna end up in therapy. Most of them at least. And the funny thing about therapists is they actually enjoy helping people. If you're finding it hard to like, or it must be really hard to like find a therapist that you get along with. If you can't imagine giving something to someone for free, but they genuinely enjoy it and they're just like driven to do it. They're not like, when someone comes in who actually has a problem, yeah, they're gonna make a bunch of money off it. And my guy just got asthma from smoking too much pipe weed. Need to find a wife and have some babies with him real quick. It's actually our goal here is to raise a bunch of money, and then hopefully some slavers will come with a hobbit woman. If I can get a chance, but I probably won't because my hobbit's kind of weak. We'll just swoon a hobbit woman. Hello. I was just finishing talking about Sneeko. I just wanted to tell chat about the comparison of Sneeko to the blue-haired transsexual. Because if you've ever been online, you'll notice that even other transsexuals will say this, but a lot of them are fucking crazy. And yeah, Sneeko's not a great guy either. He's also kind of fucking crazy. I mean, he's not like the worst I've ever seen. But his lack of inward reflection comes through so strong here, where you can see him falling right into like Dr. K can see like right through him. Yeah. And what was the other thing I was saying about Sneeko? Was oh yeah, that he like thinks that like working out at the gym, talking to God, and working hard is like better than therapy. Which Dr. K is going to look into exactly why he thinks that in a second, but when I don't need to like look into them too much, because I noticed that like Sneeko's not strong, he has the easiest job in the world, and he really doesn't take his religion seriously. So all three of those things are kind of cringe. Anyway, I'm going to go mute myself again and keep playing RimWorld.
And then we really did it, and like I'm making a like, you know, I got this girl and I'm doing my thing, and I was just like talking like I was talking to, like I was trying to come off cool.
Yeah, so would you say that what you did for that hour with that person was therapy?
Bad therapy.
What made it bad?
Actually, think about it, like I did learn some things and I didn't need to go back anymore. So, yeah. But I think the reason it was effective was because I realized that I don't need therapy. Like it just helped me realize that this is unnecessary. So I did get to talk things out. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well, hold on. I'm honestly, I'm not trying to like debate you or like I have no interest in proving you wrong. Honestly, I have no interest in that. Okay. It's just I'm just like kind of curious because here you are saying, okay, I tried therapy, but it sounds like it's kind of like saying like, okay, swimming is a waste of time, and then you ask me like, why do you think it's a waste of time? Well, I went to the beach and like I never really got in the water. I just hung out on the sand, and like swimming is a waste of time, right? Well, so you went there, yeah. you did something, but I mean, you're telling me that you treated this person, you didn't do therapy, you started flexing.
Yep.
For her.
Yeah.
Right? That's not therapy.
Okay.
Now, and I think that that's fair, right? Because you're also saying that, okay, like the problem with therapy is that when you go, you can't be completely vulnerable or honest with another human being.
Yeah.
Because, and so some kind of script, and I would guess if I asked you, like, okay, let's say that there wasn't a female therapist with big tits. Let's say the therapist was like, I don't know, a middle-aged dude. You would still be activating some kind of script with them,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so what I'm hearing you say is that the cool thing with God is that there's no scripts.
Right.
So I'm kind of curious about something. So like one of the advantages of therapy, right, is that there's another human being there. Now that's a disadvantage because now ego enters the picture. Maybe you're trying to impress them. Maybe you don't want to be vulnerable, like totally fine. But there's also an advantage, which is that there's a person there, right? So they're able to listen, they're able to respond, they're able to interact, they're able to observe. And maybe I'm making an assumption here, so I'm going to ask about this. Do you think that God does those things?
Yes.
Observes and listens
And talks back?
yeah, I do.
And in what way?
If you want something or you're looking for some sort of guidance, you can ask God and God will respond.
How?
Not in the way that a human does, but there is a response. And
How?
It's just it's kind of instinctual, and like you can. He'll tell you what you should be doing, because I think deep down you always do know the answer.
So when you say, so you're saying that God will tell you, and then
Yeah.
you're saying deep down you know the answer. So are we saying that deep down the voice that's talking to you is God? Is that you or is that God? Or am I not understanding the?
Well, I mean, we're all God's creation, so we have.
Why? I'm kind of curious, I guess, with this mentality. If you were to ask Sneeko, why bother going to any church service? Why go to a mosque? Why go to temple? Why do anything? If you can just sit at home and talk to God the whole time, why the fuck do we need any kind of teachers or scholars or biblical anything at all, right?
There's a sort of connection. I think deep down you all know, because we're all born pure, and then we start to become corrupted with sin. We start to become corrupted by what's around us, and then that's what creates the blockade. So like behind all the ego, behind the mess and the programming, you know what the truth is. But you can ask God when you drop it, and you're able to hear his guidance.
Okay, what makes it easier or harder to hear his guidance?
I think it's actually in a lot of ways it's harder. It's not easy to be vulnerable like that. It's not easy to get to that point. It took me a long time, but I do know it's possible after consistently praying.
Right. So what makes it easier or harder to hear God's voice? Because you said sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's harder. I'd agree.
Well, you have to full submission to God. And there's a lot of, like, sometimes people aren't able to do that because they're sinning, or sometimes people aren't able to do that because they're too angry, they're too emotional. It depends on what state you are in life. But if you can get to that point, then you're able to communicate with God.
Okay. So I'm hearing that, I'm with you that if you're able to get to that point, it's great, right? So you hear some kind of voice or some kind of knowing or instinct or connect with the divinity within you. Is it cool if I call it that?
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm also hearing that it's not entirely clear what the mechanism or methodology to connect with God is. So there's certain things that get in the way, maybe anger, maybe sin. But even if I'm not angry or I'm not sinning, does that guarantee I will hear God's voice?
No.
Or right? So then what else goes into it?
Fear. It could be, like, sometimes, for example, well, I'll give you Islam, for example, because I'm a Muslim, and a lot of people connect with God in different ways, and I don't think any of that is inherently wrong. But for example, when you pray in Islam, you're supposed to make wudu before, which is cleansing yourself. You're supposed to wash your arms, wash your feet. You're supposed to wash your face, your ears, and everything. You're supposed to be in a clean state. Even when you pray in Mecca, you're supposed to be wearing a white garment that's clean. Like, there's a way to purify yourself and make sure you have true intentions. Even when you're washing yourself before prayer, you're supposed to make sure, like, the whole point is to make clear intentions that I'm going to pray, or else your prayer isn't accepted. Like even when you get on your knees and put your head to the floor, you can't just go through the motions and expect to be able to connect with God. You have to have clear intentions to do that. So I think there's a lot of things. If you're emotional or if you don't have faith, sometimes people just don't have faith. Like there's a lot of things that could block your faith.
Okay. So then let's say I'm having trouble, right? Let's say I don't really have faith, or I'm afraid, or I'm angry. Actually, forget about that. I realized I was slipping into a debating kind of mode, so I'll just say what I'm going to say.
Okay.
So here's where I think there's an advantage to therapy. So I completely agree with everything that you've said. Okay. I think the challenge, though, is that what you're sort of...
Sometimes when I listen, fuck, it sounds annoying to analyze, because it sounds like I'm just gonna shit on Sneeko. Sometimes when I hear Sneeko give answers to questions, sometimes I feel like he's in a mode where he feels like this is the answer that he's supposed to give, rather than like, are you actually thinking about this particular, at least in with regards to religion, or actually thinking about like how you're supposed to respond, or I'm sorry, are you thinking about like, what do you actually feel? Like, what do you feel and what are you doing when you're approaching these issues? Like, how do you prepare to pray to God, right? And it's like, well, I try to approach humbly. I try to approach with honesty. Like, instead of that, it's like, well, when you approach God, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to kneel and you say 4 prayers in the book. And the reason why you say these prayers is because they prepare your mind for when you go to God. And the reason why when you're preparing your mind, and it's like, whoa, bro, what? I don't know. Am I in Sunday school right now? Like, it feels like he has a really hard time. And maybe it's just the way that he talks, or maybe it's like I don't want to say like a grift or whatever, but it's like, just explain, like, what are the feelings or emotions or processes, like, rather than giving me this like this textbook answer that you feel like you are obligated to give as I don't know.
Talking about is like difficulties within you. So like, let's just take faith, for example. So not having faith is like really tricky, right? Because
maybe it's the dog shit religion he's pushing. Well, I mean, he's not actually religious too, right? The fact that it's a grift makes it probably a lot harder for him to connect on an emotional level as well, right? Because he's just like repeating the answers that he's been told that he thinks he's supposed to give. Yeah.
Faith is not something that is born of logic. It's born of faith. It's the belief in something. And if you really look at it, technically, you can't have faith. You can't have faith if you have knowledge, because knowledge is when you know something. Faith is when you believe something, right? You have faith in something. Agreed there? And I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm laying out how my understanding of things.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So I think the big advantage of therapy is that you've got like another human being. So if you have other problems, right? So like if you have, let's say, fear or anger or a lack of faith, that there's actually like another human being there to help you with those barriers.
Right. But humans are inherently flawed, and we're never going to be perfect. So
absolutely.
A therapist's advice is always going to be inferior to God's, because God's all-knowing and God is perfect and God's more intelligent than us. But I don't think that there's any human that's better than me or smarter or that knows anything that I don't know, because we're all created equal. So, I mean, it's good to kind of voice those things. And that's why that therapy session that I had with that woman with the giant breasts was effective, because I realized something. She didn't tell me anything. It was just me talking that made me realize that this is useless and I don't need this. I think when you talk to something,
hold on a second. So once again, I don't disagree with any of your premises. I come to a different conclusion. So you kind of said, I'm with you that human beings are flawed, right? And so, but just because a human being is flawed doesn't mean that a human being can't help another human being.
True. Yeah, I'm not saying it's completely useless. I'm just saying that
it's mostly useless.
Okay.
And
I think people like the echo chamber and have a certain level of narcissism. I think if you...
Even in an Islamic context, seeking knowledge is a requirement in Islam, and this blind faith is very much looked down upon. Yeah, I want to be really careful, because I don't want to speak much to Islam. I can't. I can speak from a Christian perspective. And given that we're all like members of the book or whatever, I feel like there's probably going to be a lot of similarities, but I don't want to say for sure, right? But it reminds me of I'm pretty sure I've told this joke on stream before, that like a man is a huge flood has overtaken a city, and a man is sitting in his house, and a few people come by in a car, and they're like, hey, we're leaving the city, let's go. And the guy's like, no, God is going to protect me, nothing will happen. And then the floodwaters begin to rise. The guy moves up to the second floor, He's sitting in his bedroom. You know, a couple in a boat comes by and like, hey, hop in. We're leaving the city. There's floodwaters. And the man is like, no, God is going to protect me. And then eventually the man climbs into his attic and he's on the roof. So the floodwaters like are overtaking his entire house. And then a helicopter comes by and the guy is like, hey, hop in the helicopter or you're going to drown and die. And the guy's like, no, I have strong faith in God. He's going to protect me. And then eventually the floodwaters rise. The guy drowns. He's at the gates with St. Peter. And, you know, finally he gets in and he talks to God and he's like, God, I prayed to you. I had strong faith in you. Why didn't you help me? And then God was like, what are you talking about? I sent a car, a boat, and a helicopter and you didn't get in, dumb fuck. And then he smacks the guy upside the face, bends him over, and he reams him with his 32-inch holy dick. But yeah, this idea that like you do nothing and God does everything, like you're supposed to be proactive in your life and you're supposed to do things to like seek knowledge and wisdom and you know the application of prayer and rituals. And I just, at least in a Christian setting, or at least in a Catholic setting, I would say, I could never imagine like a priest or a Jesuit or a preacher or any type of holy person say like, oh yes, my son, don't seek wisdom from any other area in your life. Just keep praying to God and that's all you need to do and he'll tell you everything. Like that's just such a bizarre statement. I would be surprised because I feel like in Islam, I feel like you have a lot of like holy scholars and everything as well. I'd be surprised if it was much different in Islam. I seriously doubt they would say what do they call them? Imam, or I don't know what the fuck your leaders are called. But I seriously doubt you would go into a mosque and they'd be like, oh yes, child, like just pray to Allah, pray to God, and he'll tell you everything. Don't seek wisdom anywhere else. Like that just seems so wild. I don't know. But who knows?
Keep going back to therapy like that long without any solution. You just kind of like hearing yourself talk.
Well, I mean, when you say that long without any kind of solution, like what's your understanding of like the course and outcomes around therapy?
There's a lot of people that I know. I'm sure you know these people. So they have their therapist on speed dial, and they talk about the therapist like they're friends.
Oh, cute. Okay, sorry. Here's a fun story I've been thinking about recently. This is from aliyabdal.com. One day, the Prophet Muhammad noticed a Bedouin leaving his camel unattended without tying it. He asked the Bedouin, "Is it Bedouin or Bedouin? Bedouin? Why don't you tie your camel?" The Bedouin answered, "I place my trust in God." The Prophet said, "Trust in God, but tie your camel." Yeah. So yeah, in Islam, it's probably the same thing, right?
Friends. You know,
I don't think that's the majority of people. I think that is a tiny fraction of people.
Okay.
I would guess less than 5%. So I know that, for example, like part of our training as therapists is that we set very clear boundaries. We're not your friend. So you're not supposed to be texting us all the time. So when a patient texts or calls me at like 8 p.m., I'll answer because they don't usually do that. And then I'll ask them, hey, can this wait until our appointment? Or do you really need to talk to me now? Or do you need to go to the emergency room? Or like, what's going on? So I don't think that because a lot of what I'm really confused about is that I think a lot of your understanding of therapy is based on, I'm not quite sure what you've heard, I guess.
I guess my understanding is like it's a lot of liberals who prioritize feelings over facts. The people that
I feel so bad for people whose brains get so heavily politicized that they like can't evaluate the world. You're like, bro, what's your favorite type of ice cream? Do you like mint chocolate chip? It's like, ice cream, well, ever since the liberals started, blah, like, did you ever watch Game of Thrones? Well, I heard that George R. Martin, I heard that he's a feminist, so no. And it's like your brain is like Sneeko is like the ultimate product of what I talked about, I think like a year or two ago, where it feels like everything today is so politicized. Like every single thing is fucking politicized. You can't have a normal conversation about anything without people like invoking politics. I was like, oh my god, actual bot behavior.
Yeah, the people that usually go to therapy I don't think that they're based in reality. I think that they like trivializing their lives and they're just not that interesting, and they want to make it more interesting by making up problems and unpacking everything.
Where does that? Where do you get that?
Any of this, yeah.
Right. So like for example, you said that they're like interested in feelings instead of facts. So like, where do you get that impression?
Ben Shapiro.
I'm confused by that.
For example,
because you're drawing a lot of conclusive statements and I'm
They,
curious.
they
what
have
your-
something called like gender affirming care. I remember having this in school where we had like social workers and therapists that were designed there, and there were rooms for safe places where there was like a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist, and they would just talk about their feelings, and then it was always, they had like rainbow stickers on the front. And all these people that ended up becoming transgender or becoming gender fluid, they were always constantly in therapy. Or like, I went to school with a bunch of depressed kids, kids who thought they were depressed. All these kids were on SSRIs. They were all, like I said, they were anxious. They were constantly popping pills. And they all had the same political ideology. It was sort of like centered around the fact that weakness is okay. They didn't see strength as a virtue. They saw weakness as something to lean into.
How do you know that what
What?
they saw? That I'm confused. Like, how do you know what they see?
I mean, by talking to them, I mean, I guess I don't, but talking to them all the time. To see, like, the people that were constantly going to therapy in my school were the gender fluid people. The people that didn't believe in it, and the people that were like on a different political idea, like they were the ones playing sports, working out constantly, and who were like trying to build something.
Okay, so I'm sort of seeing like there's that just the way that you're viewing things is that there's a lot of like correlations.
Yeah.
So going to therapy is correlated with weakness.
With
is
liberalism and
correlated
weakness,
with
yeah.
Liberalism
political
and weakness.
ideology is correlated
Both of those
with
are very
not
important.
exercising is correlated with not doing things.
Yep.